North Sentinel Island in the Indian Ocean is so hostile to human life that the few who've tried to set foot there never made it back alive. It's just one of Earth's truly forbidden zones we're about to explore. These aren't just difficult destinations. These are 10 impossible places that defy human access. What you're about to see will challenge everything you thought you knew about Earth's final frontiers. 1. North Sentinel Island, India. North Sentinel Island sits isolated in the Bay of Bengal, home to one of the last uncontacted tribes on Earth, the Sentinelese. These indigenous people have violently rejected any contact with the outside world for thousands of years. Their hostility isn't without reason. Their isolation has protected them from diseases they have no immunity against. In 2018, an American missionary named John Allen Chow attempted to reach the island illegally to convert the tribe to Christianity. The Sentinelese killed him with arrows shortly after he arrived. His body was never recovered, as retrieval attempts were met with the same fierce resistance. The Indian government has established a 3-mile exclusion zone around the island, making it illegal for anyone to approach. Naval patrols regularly monitor the waters to prevent unauthorized visits. Helicopters that have flown over for welfare checks after natural disasters have been greeted with arrows shot skyward. What's even more remarkable is how little we know about the Sentinelese. Anthropologists estimate their population to be between 50 and 200 individuals. They appear to be hunter-gatherers with no agricultural practices or ability to make fire. Their language remains completely unknown and is likely unrelated to any other language on Earth. The tribe survived the devastating 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami that swept over many nearby islands. When officials conducted aerial surveys afterward, they were greeted by Sentinelese archers in fighting posture on the beach, proving their resilience despite the catastrophe. Scientists believe the Sentinelese have inhabited the island for up to 55,000 years, making them direct descendants of the first human populations to emerge from Africa. Their genetic isolation makes them an invaluable window into human prehistory, yet one we may never open. The Indian government now acknowledges that forced contact would be catastrophic for the tribe and has adopted a hands-off policy. This island represents perhaps the purest example of a place humans cannot visit, not because of natural barriers, but because of the rightful determination of its inhabitants to remain isolated. 2nd, Gangkhar Puensum, Bhutan. Rising 24,836 feet above sea level, Gangkhar Puensum stands as the world's tallest unclimbed mountain. Its name translates to White Peak of the Three Spiritual Brothers in the local language, hinting at the sacred significance that helps keep it pristine and untouched by human footprints. Unlike many mountaineering challenges that remain unconquered due to technical difficulty, Gangkhar Puensum is off-limits primarily because of spiritual beliefs. In 1994, the government of Bhutan banned all mountaineering above 6,000 meters, 19,685 feet, out of respect for local spiritual traditions that regard high peaks as the sacred homes of protective deities and spirits. The mountain straddles the border between Bhutan and China, creating political complications that further restrict access. Maps disagree about the exact location of the peak, with Chinese maps placing it in their territory, while Bhutan claims it as their own. This disputed status adds bureaucratic barriers to an already spiritually protected location. Before the climbing ban, 4 expeditions attempted to summit Gangkhar Puensum between 1985 and 1986, but all were turned back by a combination of terrible weather, treacherous conditions, and inadequate mapping. The closest anyone has come was a 1998 Japanese expedition that climbed a subsidiary peak from the Chinese side, but they intentionally stayed off the main summit out of respect for Bhutanese beliefs. The mountain's remote location presents extreme logistical challenges. The approach requires weeks of trekking through uninhabited wilderness with no established routes or support infrastructure. The region experiences severe weather patterns with sudden storms, extreme cold, and avalanche dangers that can materialize without warning. Satellite imagery reveals that Gangkar Puensum's slopes are covered with unstable snowfields, massive glaciers with countless hidden crevasses, and near-vertical rock faces that would challenge even the most elite climbers. The oxygen levels at its upper reaches are less than a third of what's available at sea level, requiring extensive acclimatization. As the world's mountains become increasingly trafficked and commercialized, Gangkar Puensum stands as a rare example of a major peak that may never feel human presence on its summit. It's a reminder that some places remain beyond our reach, not because we lack the technical ability to get there, but because sometimes the wisest course is to respect boundaries, both physical and spiritual. 3. Snake Island, Brazil. Just off the coast of São Paulo, Brazil lies a 110-acre nightmare known officially as Ilha da Queimada Grande, but more commonly called Snake Island. This seemingly peaceful outcrop of Atlantic rainforest harbors a deadly secret. It contains the highest concentration of venomous snakes anywhere in the world, with some estimates suggesting 1 snake per square meter. The island's most infamous resident is the golden lancehead viper, a critically endangered species found nowhere else on Earth. Evolution in isolation has made these pit vipers particularly lethal. Their venom is 5 times stronger than their mainland relatives, capable of melting human flesh and killing within hours. Without immediate medical attention, the mortality rate from their bites approaches 7%. The snakes evolved their supercharged venom because their primary prey, migratory birds that use the island as a stopover, must be killed quickly before they can fly away. With no ground-level predators to threaten them, the snake population exploded to dominate this isolated ecosystem in a way that would be impossible on the mainland. The Brazilian government has declared Snake Island strictly off-limits to the public. The only legal visitors are scientific research teams who must be accompanied by a doctor specializing in snake bites. Even the Brazilian Navy conducts only essential maintenance visits to the automated lighthouse that replaced the last human residents. A lighthouse keeper and his family, who, according to local legend, fled in panic when snakes entered through their windows. Black market demand has made the golden lancehead a target for biopiracy. Their unique venom has potential applications in medicine, particularly for treating heart disease, blood clots, and circulation problems. This has led to poachers risking their lives to capture specimens, with individual snakes reportedly selling for up to $30,000 on the illegal exotic animal market. Climate change and habitat destruction threaten this isolated ecosystem. Rising sea levels could eventually submerge parts of the island, while increasingly severe storms erode its shoreline. Researchers estimate the golden lancehead population has declined by nearly 50% in recent decades, making scientific access crucial despite the dangers. The existence of Snake Island serves as a stark reminder that humans haven't managed to dominate every corner of our planet. Some places remain naturally defended by the evolutionary arms race that continues to unfold in isolation, creating dangers that can't be easily overcome, even with modern technology and medicine. 4. Bouvet Island, South Atlantic Ocean. Bouvet Island sits in splendid isolation in the southern Atlantic Ocean, earning it the title of the most remote island on Earth. The nearest land is Antarctica, over 1,100 miles away, and the closest inhabited land, South Africa, lies at a staggering distance of 1,600 miles. This volcanic island is less a destination and more an afterthought of geography, forgotten by nature in one of the planet's emptiest regions. Norway claimed this frozen rock in 1927, but it's a possession they rarely visit. The island is almost entirely covered by a glacier, with 93% of its 19 square miles hidden beneath ice up to 400 feet thick. Black volcanic beaches rim the coastline, constantly pounded by some of the most treacherous seas on the planet, with waves frequently reaching heights of 30 feet or more. Landing on Bouvet Island represents one of seafaring's greatest challenges. There are no harbors or sheltered bays, just sheer cliffs rising directly from turbulent waters. expedition ships must hold position in violent seas, while helicopters attempt landings on small ice plateaus. And even these operations are only possible during rare weather windows in the southern summer. The island's climate is as forbidding as its geography. Temperatures hover around freezing even in summer, while winter brings bitter cold and perpetual darkness. Hurricane-force winds can materialize without warning, and fog frequently reduces visibility to near zero. Weather stations established here have been destroyed by the elements multiple times, swallowed by ice or swept away by storms. Despite being uninhabited by humans, Bouvet Island teems with Antarctic wildlife that has claimed this hostile outpost as a breeding ground. Thousands of penguins and seals crowd the few ice-free areas during breeding season, creating a bizarre juxtaposition of abundant life on an island that actively rejects human presence. The island hides mysteries that remain unsolved. In 1964, a South African expedition discovered an abandoned lifeboat in a lagoon, with no sign of its occupants or the vessel it came from. By their next visit, the boat had vanished without a trace, creating an enduring maritime puzzle. More recently, in 2016, a massive seafloor earthquake suggested ongoing volcanic activity beneath the island. Bouvet's isolation has made it valuable in the internet age as the home of the .bv top-level domain, though Norway has never activated it. This uninhabited rock also features in astronomy as a prime location for observing rare transits of Venus, precisely because it's so far from the light pollution and atmospheric disturbances of civilization. A reminder that its greatest value may come from the very remoteness that makes it impossible to reach. 5. Heard Island Volcano, Australia. In the southern Indian Ocean, 2,500 miles southwest of Perth, Australia, lies one of Earth's most isolated active volcanoes. Heard Island is dominated by the 9,000-foot Big Ben Massif, crowned by Mawson Peak, a volcano that regularly sends smoke signals into some of the planet's most pristine air, completely unseen by human eyes. The island exists at the intersection of extreme conditions. It sits directly in the path of the Furious 50s, the band of perpetual westerly winds that circle Antarctica and generate the most consistently violent ocean conditions on Earth. These winds routinely exceed hurricane force, creating waves that can tower over 60 feet high, making sea approaches nearly impossible for most of the year. Heard Island's location places it in a climatic wasteland. It receives almost constant precipitation, over 280 days per year, mostly as snow, sleet, or freezing rain, driven horizontally by relentless winds. Temperatures hover just above freezing in summer and plunge well below in winter. The weather can shift from merely uncomfortable to life-threatening within minutes, as Antarctic frontal systems sweep across the unprotected terrain. The island is 80% covered by glaciers, many of which flow directly into the sea, creating a constantly changing coastline of ice cliffs and unstable moraines. These glaciers are retreating rapidly due to climate change, exposing new land, but also creating unpredictable hazards as meltwater destabilizes volcanic slopes. Scientists who have managed to visit report hearing constant cracking and rumbling as the landscape reshapes itself. Australia maintains sovereignty over Heard Island, but human presence is extremely rare. Research expeditions visit perhaps once per decade, requiring specialized ice-breaking vessels and helicopter support. The last major scientific mission in 2016 had to be evacuated ahead of schedule when volcanic activity increased unexpectedly, highlighting the unpredictability that keeps this island beyond reliable human access. The volcano itself presents unique dangers. Unlike most well-studied volcanic systems, Mawson Peak's eruption patterns are poorly understood due to lack of monitoring. The combination of frequent eruptions with massive glaciers creates the constant risk of lahar flows, destructive mudslides of volcanic material and meltwater that can travel at highway speeds with little warning. The entire island is essentially an active volcanic system with no safe zones. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of Heard Island is that despite being one of the most difficult places on Earth to reach, it hosts staggering biodiversity. Millions of penguins and seals crowd its beaches, while unique species of plants have evolved to survive the extreme conditions. This richness stands in stark contrast to the almost complete absence of human visitors, a reminder that life finds a way to thrive in places where humans can barely survive a brief visit. 6th Point Nemo, Pacific Ocean. Point Nemo isn't an island, a mountain, or even a physical feature. It's a mathematical abstraction that represents the most remote location in Earth's oceans. Located at 48 degrees 52.6 minutes south, 123 degrees 23.6 minutes west, this point in the South Pacific Ocean is officially known as the oceanic pole of inaccessibility, the spot farthest from any landmass on the planet. From this watery coordinate, the nearest land is over 1,670 miles away in every direction. This oceanic nowhere sits within the South Pacific Gyre, a massive circular ocean current that creates what sailors have long called the dead zone. The surrounding waters are among the most nutrient-poor on Earth, unable to support much marine life. The combination of isolation and biological emptiness makes Point Nemo one of the loneliest places on our planet, a true marine desert where even plankton struggle to survive. The extreme isolation has made Point Nemo the perfect location for disposing of decommissioned spacecraft. Space agencies around the world use this remote coordinate as spacecraft cemetery, where satellites and space stations are deliberately crashed at the end of their operational lives. Over 300 spacecraft, including Russia's Mir space station, rest on the seabed beneath these coordinates, creating an unintentional monument to human technological achievement in one of Earth's least accessible locations. Reaching Point Nemo requires a major oceanic expedition. It lies days away from shipping lanes and weeks from the nearest port. The surrounding waters experience some of the planet's most challenging sailing conditions, with massive swells, unpredictable weather, and no possibility of rescue in emergencies. Even global circumnavigation races, which pass relatively close, steer clear of this marine void. The isolation is so complete that astronauts on the International Space Station, orbiting 258 miles above Earth, are actually closer to Point Nemo than the nearest humans on land when their orbit passes overhead. This creates the paradoxical situation where help could theoretically arrive faster from space than from anywhere on Earth, though neither option offers practical assistance. Scientists studying this region have discovered that the surrounding water contains some of the clearest, most plastic-free ocean remaining on Earth, precisely because human activity is so absent. Water samples show visibility extending hundreds of feet, a rarity in today's oceans. However, even this remote sanctuary isn't completely pristine. Researchers have detected microplastics carried by global ocean currents, proving that no place on Earth remains completely untouched by human influence. The very concept of Point Nemo highlights a philosophical aspect of inaccessibility. Unlike mountains we cannot climb or islands we cannot land on, this point is physically possible to reach. A ship could pass directly through these coordinates without any natural barrier. Yet the combination of distance, danger, and the complete absence of any compelling reason to visit creates a practical impossibility that keeps this mathematical point firmly in the realm of places humans almost never experience firsthand. Sedum, Mariana Trench, Challenger Deep. Nearly 7 miles beneath the surface of the western Pacific Ocean lies Challenger Deep, the deepest known point on Earth. This narrow slot in the seafloor reaches 35,876 feet below sea level, deep enough to submerge Mount Everest with over a mile of water still above its peak. It represents Earth's ultimate depth, a place where the pressure reaches 8 tons per square inch, equivalent to having 50 jumbo jets balanced on your body. This extreme environment has been visited by humans fewer times than the surface of the moon. Since the first descent by Jacques Picard and Don Walsh in 1960, only a handful of manned expeditions have reached the bottom, including James Cameron's 2012 solo dive and Victor Vescovo's repeated visits beginning 2017 and 2019. The technical challenges of creating vessels that can withstand the crushing pressure while safely carrying human occupants make each expedition a multi-million-dollar undertaking requiring years of preparation. The physical conditions at this depth create an alien environment. The pressure is sufficient to compress water itself, increasing its density by 5%. Complete darkness has reigned for billions of years, broken only by the bioluminescence of strange creatures and the brief artificial lights of human explorers. Temperatures hover just above freezing, while the water contains so little oxygen that most familiar marine life would suffocate instantly. Despite these extreme conditions, Challenger Deep isn't a lifeless desert. Specialized microorganisms thrive in this high-pressure environment, and recent expeditions have discovered several species of fish, crustaceans, and other creatures living at these depths. These organisms have evolved unique adaptations, including proteins that function differently under pressure and metabolic processes that require minimal energy in this nutrient-poor environment. The geological processes that created and maintain this deep trench are among Earth's most powerful forces. The Mariana Trench marks a subduction zone where the Pacific Plate plunges beneath the Philippine Plate, driving the ocean floor deep into the planet's mantle. This dynamic boundary experiences frequent earthquakes and hosts deep hydrothermal vents, where superheated water erupts from the seafloor, creating oases of unique life in the dark depths. Scientific research in Challenger Deep requires specialized equipment that often pushes the boundaries of modern engineering. Unmanned vehicles must withstand pressures that would instantly crush conventional submarines, while their electronic systems must function in conditions that affect the behavior of electricity itself. Many instruments are single-use, designed to be sacrificed to the depths after collecting their data because retrieval is too difficult. Humanity's relationship with Challenger Deep highlights an interesting paradox of modern exploration. We now possess the technology to reach this ultimate depth, yet it remains less explored than the surface of Mars. The immense cost and risk of each expedition mean that only a tiny fraction of the trench has been directly observed, leaving one of Earth's most extreme environments largely unmapped and unstudied. A reminder that some places remain effectively beyond our reach, despite being technically accessible. 8. Mount Kailash, Tibet. Rising from the Tibetan Plateau at 22,028 feet, Mount Kailash stands not as a climbing challenge, but as perhaps the world's most revered natural temple. This symmetrical peak is considered sacred in 4 religions: Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and the indigenous Bon faith, making it quite possibly the most religiously significant mountain on Earth. For billions of believers, it represents the literal center of the universe. The mountain's perfect pyramid shape, topped by a distinctive face that appears to change color throughout the day, has inspired religious devotion for thousands of years. In Hindu tradition, it's the abode of Lord Shiva and his consort Parvati. Buddhists believe it to be the home of Buddha Demchok, while Jains revere it as the place where their first spiritual leader achieved enlightenment. For followers of Bon, it represents the sacred 9-story swastika mountain. What makes Mount Kailash truly impossible to reach is not its technical difficulty. By Himalayan standards, it would be a challenging but achievable climb, but rather the universal agreement that its summit should remain untouched by human feet. No person has ever stood on its peak, and if religious and governmental authorities have their way, no one ever will. The Chinese government, which controls the region, has banned all attempts to climb the mountain. The Chinese government, which controls the region, has banned all attempts to climb the mountain. Each year, thousands of pilgrims undertake the arduous journey to perform Kora, the ritual circumambulation of the mountain. The 32-mile circuit crosses an 18,600-foot pass and typically takes 3 days to complete. though devout Buddhists may prostrate themselves along the entire route, extending the journey to several weeks. According to tradition, a single circuit erases the sins of a lifetime, while 108 circuits leads to full enlightenment. The remoteness of Mount Kailash adds to its inaccessibility. The journey requires traveling to one of Earth's most isolated regions, at least 2 days' drive from the nearest airport in Lhasa, Tibet, over roads that are frequently blocked by landslides or political restrictions. Visitors must obtain special permits from Chinese authorities, who strictly control access to the region and frequently close it entirely to foreigners during periods of political sensitivity. The mountain's sacred status has been challenged only once in recorded history. In 1985, the legendary Spanish climber Reinhold Messner was granted permission by the Chinese government to attempt an ascent. Upon seeing the mountain and understanding its spiritual significance, he declined, stating that some mountains are so sanctified that climbing them would be sacrilegious. This moment of restraint has become nearly as legendary among mountaineers as any successful summit. Mount Kailash represents a different kind of inaccessibility, one based not on physical impossibility, but on moral and cultural boundaries. In an era when commercialization has reached even the summit of Everest, Kailash stands as a powerful reminder that some places remain beyond our reach, not because we can't go there, but because we choose not to. Its untouched summit forces us to confront the question of whether there should be limits to where humans tread, even when technically possible. 9. Mezhgory, Russia. Hidden deep within the southern Ural Mountains lies Mezhgory, a secret closed city that doesn't appear on most maps of Russia. This highly restricted settlement of about 17,000 people exists behind multiple layers of security. With armed checkpoints, barbed wire perimeters, and constant surveillance, creating a bubble of secrecy in an increasingly connected world. What makes Mezhgoria different from merely difficult-to-visit places is its status as a completely closed administrative territory under Russian law. No foreigners are permitted entry under any circumstances, and even Russian citizens must have special authorization and a specific purpose to visit. Those who live and work there require special permits, and many aspects of life inside remain classified state secrets. The city's purpose remains shrouded in mystery, though it's widely believed to be connected to Mount Yamantau, a nearby peak that has been the site of massive secret construction since the Soviet era. Western intelligence agencies have long suspected the mountain contains a vast underground complex designed as a command center, nuclear weapons storage facility, or bunker for Russian leadership in case of nuclear war. The Russian equivalent of America's Cheyenne Mountain Complex. Construction at the site accelerated dramatically after the fall of the Soviet Union, puzzling Western observers who questioned why post-communist Russia would pour billions into a Cold War-style facility. Russian officials have offered contradictory explanations over the years, claiming it variously houses a mining operation, a food storage facility, a treasury, or a bunker for civilians. Explanations that satisfy few outside observers given the enormous scale and cost of the operation. Satellite imagery confirms extensive infrastructure around Mezhgorie, including massive ventilation shafts, railway connections that disappear into tunnels, and powerful communication arrays. These surface features suggest whatever lies beneath the mountain is both enormous and extremely sophisticated, requiring substantial power, air handling, and data capacity. The few accounts from former workers or residents that have emerged describe a surprisingly normal-seeming town on the surface, with schools, shops, and residential areas similar to other Russian small cities. However, they also mention extraordinary security protocols, restrictions on electronic devices, and specialized underground facilities accessed through heavily guarded entrances built directly into the mountainside. Mezhgorie represents the most traditional form of inaccessibility, a place humans have deliberately rendered impossible to reach through force, law, and secrecy. Unlike natural barriers that can potentially be overcome with technology or determination, The human barriers surrounding this location are absolute for all but the tiny fraction of people authorized by the Russian state. It stands as a reminder that in our mapped and photographed world, some places remain deliberately hidden, their true nature known only to the few with clearance to see behind the curtain. 10. Tristan da Cunha, South Atlantic. Tristan da Cunha holds the distinction of being the most remote inhabited place on Earth, an island so isolated that it redefines what it means to live far from civilization. Located 1,750 miles from South Africa and 2,088 miles from South America, this volcanic island sits alone in the vast South Atlantic, home to just under 250 people who live in a single settlement called Edinburgh of the Seven Seas. What makes Tristan da Cunha practically impossible to reach is the complete absence of an airport, leaving the sea as the only approach. Yet even this route presents extraordinary challenges. The island is buffeted year-round by the roaring 40s, powerful westerly winds that generate massive waves and make approaching the small harbor extremely hazardous. There are no sheltered anchorages, and ships must hold position in open water, while small launches attempt to navigate the notorious swells. The island receives visits from only about 10 ships per year, primarily fishing vessels and the occasional research ship. The only regular connection to the outside world is a South African polar research vessel that visits 8 or 9 times annually. When residents need medical care beyond what's available at the island's small clinic, they face a week-long journey to Cape Town, if weather permits departure at all. Life on Tristan revolves around self-sufficiency born of necessity. The 245 residents share just 8 surnames, all descended from the original settlers who arrived in the early 19th century. They operate as a collective farming and fishing community, with every able-bodied person contributing to the common welfare. Modern conveniences like internet arrived only recently, via a satellite connection that remains expensive and unreliable due to the frequent storms. The island's volcanic nature adds another layer of unpredictability to its isolation. In 1961, the entire population was evacuated to England after the dormant volcano that forms the island suddenly erupted. They spent 2 years in exile before choosing to return, despite offers of resettlement in more accessible locations. The volcano remains active, with scientists monitoring for signs of future eruptions that could once again cut this remote community off completely. Visitors who do manage to reach Tristan da Cunha face strict limitations. The Island Council must approve all visits in advance. Accommodation is limited to staying with local families as there are no hotels, and weather can extend a planned short visit into weeks or even months if departure becomes impossible. Those seeking to settle permanently must be approved by the entire island population through a vote, a process that rarely results in acceptance. Perhaps the most telling indicator of Tristan's isolation is that when the COVID-19 pandemic swept the globe in 2020, the island implemented what was likely the world's most effective quarantine simply by doing what it always does, allowing almost no one to visit. While the rest of humanity grappled with lockdowns and social distancing, the Tristanians continued life much as before, protected by the same isolation that makes their home one of Earth's most impossible places to reach. Even in our connected world, Earth still guards some extraordinary places behind insurmountable barriers of nature, politics, and sacred tradition. What if these impossible places aren't failures of human access, but triumphs of preservation, their very inaccessibility making them precious? And while you contemplate that, consider what other impossible places might exist, hidden not by distance or danger, but by forces we haven't even considered. The answer might be closer than you think. If you enjoyed this video, click on the video on screen to learn more. Did you know facts?